Well, tonight on Love Island was the baby challenge, which is a classic Love Island challenge. I've seen some people online saying, "Oh, the show's about to get boring." Look, after the clusterfuck that this season was, I think it is okay to have some episodes where the couples are actually happy. The cast is actually happy, and we can actually just see them together without the drama. The producers, what they tried to do was they tried to recreate the Andrea moment from last season with Rob. They tried to recreate it like 4 times this season. Back when Hannah was eliminated, Jeremiah, and then I'm forgetting someone. There was like 2 or 3 other times. I can't think right now. It's been a long day, but there's been like 4 different occasions where they tried to recreate that moment, and none of them hit even close to that. And I think the producers forgot what actually made this so popular was authenticity within the couples, which we're finally actually starting to kind of get from most of them. Even some of the authenticity of arguments in tonight's episode was a breath of fresh air. So I enjoyed tonight. I think some couples did better than others in the baby challenge. I really liked watching Pepe try to be father. I thought he did a really good job. But Ace was also very entertaining to watch with the twins. And overall, the guys were trying way harder in this challenge than the girls. And I think that's why Amaya and Bryan lost. Amaya didn't even try at all. Let's be real. She's not ready for a child. And I think Ace and Chelley also lost, but they were dealing with twins and they just did not. Ace was trying. I don't know if Chelley was. And I thought that, Nic did a pretty decent little job, he and Alandrea. And then obviously Huda has experience with this, being the single mom in the house. But Chris was a little bit on one in tonight's episode. So we learned later in the episode that Chris and Huda hooked up the night prior to this. And for once, I'm not going to blame Huda and drag Huda, even though I do feel as though once Huda has sex with the guy, that I think maybe does bring out her crazy a little more, as we've seen prior this season with Jeremiah. But Chris, he was the one that was the dick in today's episode, because obviously he's not ready to have a child. That's just first and foremost. He has no interest in being a father, in my opinion, and I think that's a bad thing if we're really supposed to sit here and think that Chris and Huda just are this great little couple. At one point during the episode, Chris told her to shut up, and this is coming after, last night they finally hooked up. So I think that was a red flag, I would say, from Chris. Most of the guys this season, I think some of them enjoy the chase, and then once the woman puts out, they start to show some true colors. I guess that's probably true to life in a lot of scenarios, but I think that's what happened with Nic and Sierra as well, which is why towards the end of their little thing, Nic seemed not happy in that closed off relationship at all. Their conversations towards the end, before Sierra got the boot, was that of Nic seeming like he was locked into something he didn't want to be in. And so now I think Nic is probably enjoying the chase of Olandria once again, which we'll get back to them. But back to Chris and Huda. Was a red flag from Chris. They did communicate better as the episode went along, and I think Chris is a better communicator than Jeremiah was, for sure. But I don't know. Their chemistry, it's kind of non-existent to me. I don't think that Chris and Huda have it, and I think Chris is looking for a place to live because, as he said prior this season, he doesn't have a place to live. So he's hoping that he can move in with Huda, despite her having a child that he wants nothing to do with. Moving on from them. Amaya and Bryan, like I said, Maya was not ready for this baby challenge either, but they're the ones that got voted into the hideaway tonight. And it seems as though Bryan is hungry going into the hideaway tonight. So, do I think that they should have gotten the hideaway already, even though they just became a couple? Probably not, but when you look at the other couples, it makes the most sense. I don't think Olandria is anywhere near wanting to sleep with Nic right now, if ever. And I think Ace and Chelley are a slow, well, Ace is a slow burn. Ace has had a lot of walls up this season that he is finally putting down. And Ace was a breath of fresh air tonight. I think he was good TV. I think we're finally getting the Ace on Love Island rather than the Ace who was trying to play a Survivor game earlier this season, which got a lot of people against him and later got some people against Chelley as well. I think there's a lot of positivity growing towards Ace and Chelley. I don't know if it's enough to get them the win this season, but they are starting to get some positivity on even TikTok, which is a big deal for them because the youngins on TikTok have become so slanted towards Huda, as I said last week, and with Huda and Chelley having problems, it was a big old attack on Ace and Chelley. But even TikTok becoming positive towards Ace and Chelley is good for their chances of winning, but probably not good enough, I don't think. Back to Amaya and Bryan, though. Them getting the hideaway, I just don't know who else would have gotten it. Looking at the other couples, so I'm okay with them getting what I believe is the first hideaway this season. It's like for the first 5 weeks, this show tried to be a different show. And some people are saying it was good reality TV. I'm not one of those people. It was mid and a lot of production shit going on that I don't think worked. And now in the last week, I feel like it's actually trying to be Love Island again. Maybe production just listened to the fans, but yeah, they made a lot of mistakes this season. The fact that we're not even getting a movie night most likely this season tells you how bad production really screwed this season up, and the cast just didn't have these connections. And this goes to my video yesterday about the connections and why I think a lot of us enjoy Nic and Olandria is because they have had that connection. Alandria said coming into this that she wanted a slow burn. For whatever reason, she thought that slow burn was with Taylor, despite him really giving her nothing for weeks on end when she kept trying. But all along, the slow burn was Nic pining after her. And yes, of course, as I said prior, Nic, one of the people in the house that, was chasing some pussy, and he got that from Sierra. And Sierra used that to keep that connection going. And I think Elan coming in after the whole bad Casa twist is something else that made Nic want to cling on to Sierra. He felt some competition towards Elan. It's what helped them become closed off. But as I've said many times now, Nic has always felt or looked, but to me also felt way more happier when around Olandria as compared to Sierra. I know at one point they said that there wasn't a spark, which was just a lie. If anybody's watched their kissing during episode 21, it was a big fat lie. I think what happened is that Alandrea basically friend zoned Nic in episode 22 or 23, whenever it was. And so that's when Nic was saying there was no spark. He just got friend zoned. He thought it was all platonic. And tonight's episode pretty much cemented that fact with Nic had always thought that Alandrea wasn't into him. And I was thinking that too. I've said all along, I just don't think she's into white men. But apparently last night when they were cuddling, she backed that ass up, and now maybe she actually is trying to get past their platonic relationship and evolve it into something more. And so, with her actually doing that, I think once again, Nic can finally live in his truth in that he's always been attracted to Alandrea, but she's always given him the friend vibe. And, I see people using that these two are forced or whatever. And I understand using that word. I've seen people arguing online about are Nic and Olandria forced? And I think what they mean is that production is forcing them together. But I don't agree with that. Do I think that production wasn't all that upset to boot Sierra and have Nic and Olandria find their way back to each other? Of course they weren't. They know that Nic and Olandria this season have been... It's gotten the show buzz anytime they've even been a little bit together. But I don't think Nic and Olandria are forcing themselves together. A, they have a friendship. And B, they actually do get along and they do have chemistry and they do just vibe. And even if they were platonic, I mean, my favorite trope is friends to lovers. So I can't hate on that either. However, do I think that Olandria thinks that Nic is the man for her? I don't think she thinks that yet. But I'm not saying she can't get there, but I don't think she thinks that yet. That covers anyone I care about. I mean, I think Chelley and Ace have something there too that can be real. And it's good to see a lot of the fan base actually being positive towards them for once. Pepe and Iris seem like they're going to hook up. So anyone online being like, well, Nic was just with Sierra, so how can he be with Alandrea now? Pepe and Iris' whole storyline has been, oh, Pepe just really wanted Hannah this whole time and she got kicked out. And oh, Iris was just so into TJ. And now these two look like they're about to hook up in tomorrow's episode. Whatever. Someone's going home tonight. I'm hoping it's Taylor. Get Taylor out of this house finally, please. I really do like Clark. I do, but Taylor has been one of my most hated Islanders this season since about like week 2-ish. Austin was the other one. He was a waste of space. He's now finally gone. Let's get Taylor out tomorrow night. It would be finally a good week of Love Island this season.